An NYPD cop is approached by a mysterious black-suited man who invites him to be the newest member of a global organization that monitors alien activity on planet Earth. Meanwhile, a dangerous alien bug has landed on Earth with designs of global conquest in the 1997 sci-fi action comedy Men in Black. I'm Connor Eyzaguirre, and this is Filmgazm. Welcome to the Filmgazm podcast. We've got a very special episode for you today. I'm joined today by a super special guest, my cousin, Mysia Pierce-Lewis. She's a big film buff and a horror fan. I'm excited to introduce her to y'all. So, Mysia, why don't you tell us a bit about yourself and why you love movies?
Yeah, well, thanks, Connor, for having me on. First of all, really glad to be here. Happy to be doing this with you. I guess I just love movies because I don't know. It gets you into another world. It's similar to like reading books. You know what I mean? But when you're watching on film, sure, you're being presented the story as, you know, it's unfolding before you in a screen, but also it kind of gives you leeway to kind of guess a little bit what could happen next. How are things going to unfold? Just a little bit like reading a book. I love being immersed in films. I love how people use graphics, how people can really illustrate a story and kind of bend it and mend it in different ways that maybe a book can't do. And you can do it visually too. So the visual aspect right there is really strong for me. But yeah, I love films. It gets you creative, gets you thinking, gets you talking. It could be provocative. It could be sad. It just provokes emotions in you. So it's a whole culmination of stuff why I love film. But but glad to be here and happy to be talking about this one.
Yeah, very well said. I love, storytelling is one of the most powerful things we can do as a culture. And film is a medium that a lot more people have access to and allows for so many different types of stories to be told from all sorts of cultures, from all sorts of languages, from all sorts of mindsets, religious backgrounds. It's anything goes. And I love exploring culture through the lens of film. And it's a big part of why I started this podcast, because I love talking about all this shit. And I think it's worth talking about.
Yeah.
And Men in Black has always been one of my favorite movies. It's one of my, favorite sci-fi movies. And I remember watching this when I was a kid and just enjoying, being freaked out by Edgar the Bug and loving the whole idea of like space cops, basically.
Yeah.
This one's been in my repertoire for quite some time. Do you remember, like, how long have you known about Men in Black?
Since I was a kid too, I can't even tell you the last time, aside from like rewatching it for the show, when I watched it, honestly. So when you mentioned it as one of the movies we'd be reviewing, initially I was like, oh, do I want to do that one? Maybe I want to do something different, maybe a newer one. But then I started watching it and all the nostalgia came back. It was just like a rush of all these memories. I knew exactly where I was when I was watching it, what I was eating, what I was smelling, all the stuff. So it's a big part of like us growing up. And then just like 90s cultures, 90s movies just hit differently. I don't know what it is, but
I totally agree. The 90s action movie is a like stuck in time thing that did not come before, did not come after. It's very specific to that decade. I don't know why. It's the actors involved. It's the filmmaking techniques. It's the music. It's something, but it's very specific. And Men in Black is right smack dab in the middle of that. I definitely feel that. I had this on tape. Like I had this on VHS when I was a kid. I remember that. I remember rewinding this thing and like fast forwarding some of the Edgar scenes because I was 2 when this came out. So early 2000s, I had this. So yeah, I was like freaked out. But like when Edgar like pulls his face back and shit like that, I'm like, there's a lot for a child. I can't watch that part.
Yeah. Yeah, and then also speaking of that being a lot for a kid, I know we're gonna get into it later, but like there's a scene where where it's just casual domestic violence, just pitched to kids. And I was like, okay, that's great. So I didn't realize that until I rewatched it. I was like, oh, that's what was going on. That's fine. We normalize it. It's okay.
It perfectly sets up us to not be that sad when Edgar gets, half eaten and turned into a bug. It's like, oh, okay, well, he's a bastard. So sure. Okay.
Yeah.
That's what happens.
Exactly.
I think it's like a cautionary tale. Like, don't be an asshole or you're going to be a bug.
Yeah. Well, did that stop a lot of our generation though from becoming assholes?
I like to think it stopped somebody.
Okay, that's a good. I like the positivity. We're gonna take that.
There you go. Oh boy. So to get the conversation flowing, my question to you, we start out with a thematically connected question to the movie usually. Basically, do you believe in the existence of extraterrestrials?
See, look, this is a tricky one because yes and no, and I don't know why. I don't know if it's the logical brain because it's funny. I'll default and believe in spirits for sure. You know what I mean? Like I can't do demon stuff because I'm like that's too real for me. But I don't extraterrestrials. I think I was really into it. X-Files really zapped me in as a kid, and I was like, you know what? Mulder might be right. There might be something out there after all. And sometimes I still think about it, like how we have certain structures and stuff in the world, like in different like Mayan countries and all these other places. And we're trying to figure out how did these things come to be when there wasn't said technology at the time to actually like create those things, those things that we're still preserving now. So in that respect, yes. And then also we have Elon Musk, so maybe for sure, because he's not normal at all. But I don't know. I teeter back and forth. But I'd like to think that yes, there is something out there. Do they look like Men in Black characters? I don't know. I don't know. What do you think?
I think for sure there's something out there. I think that it's such a vast galaxy, such a vast universe that for us to be the only thing in the infinite cosmos is kind of insane.
Yeah.
Do I think that they're here and that they've been here? I don't think so. I think that anyone who claims to know the answer to that is lying to you to sell something.
That's true.
Like Ancient Aliens. I think everyone on that show is full of shit. Everyone there who's like, oh yeah, well, of course aliens came and invented the samurai sword. Like, no, shut up.
Yeah, that's dumb. For sure.
But if, I think something out there probably does exist. I don't know if they're capable of space travel or if they even, if they're aware of us. Yeah. But one day there'll be contact.
Do you think we'll ever like contact them first since we're doing all this talk of space travel to Mars and stuff?
Maybe. I think it'll be more like they'll show up and we'll freak the hell out, or we just won't care. That too. Like we might think it's some Super Bowl halftime joke or something. I'd like to think we don't like piss them off and start a war, but I don't know. It'll be fascinating. I love thinking about that. Like you mentioned the X-Files. Like that was one of my favorite shows too. And I thought the way they handled, the idea of colonization, I thought they handled that very well. My favorite thing about the X-Files was that Mulder believed in everything. Like it's an alien, it's a ghost, it's a Mexican goat man, it's everything. But as soon as it was religious, Scully was like, it's God. And Mulder was like, bullshit, God's not real.
Yeah.
Every time.
Yeah, that's true.
I love that.
That always got me. But I think at one point he ended up believing, kind of sort of near the end. Maybe a little bit.
In God, I think he was just humoring Scully.
That's fair.
He started to believe a bit towards the end of the show in Aliens, but I don't know. The end of the show is so murky. The last few seasons of that show were
and then the reboot that they had. It was so bad. I'm sorry. You can't redo the classic.
Yeah. The fucking guy from The Soup shows up and is like, hey, everything you did through the past 9 seasons, that was a lie. This is the real conspiracy. I'm like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Really?
It's pretty garbage. So.
Yeah. Oh, good show, though. So, Men in Black. This film was based on the Marvel comic of the same name that was later sold to Malibu Comics. People tend to forget Men in Black was one of the first Marvel comic book adaptations, which is pretty cool.
I forgot. So
yeah, it was a very it was a small comic, didn't really sell that much, was sold to Malibu. So then like Blade came out the next year and that became like the first Marvel movie. So got overshadowed. But this, I mean, in terms of comic book, like this was way more successful than Blade. Yeah. But Barry Sonnenfeld was chosen to direct after his success with The Addams Family and its sequel, Addams Family Values. The producers wanted a kind of darkly comic tone to the movie, so Sonnenfeld was a safe bet, definitely paid off. He ended up directing the first 3 films and Wild Wild West, but we don't talk about that.
No.
But yeah, I think he did a good job. I like the Addams Family 1 and 2. I've seen those; they're pretty good. And this definitely has that kind of dark comic tone. Somebody described it as like the French Connection with aliens. Pretty good. It was Sonnenfeld who chose to set the film in New York, as he felt New Yorkers would likely be fairly tolerant of aliens living among them if they found out. It's like the only city where people would just be like, yeah, he's from Mars. Who fucking cares?
You're right. Get out the street. Like,
yeah.
That's funny.
I was watching the 1990 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie for another podcast. It was god awful. There's a scene. It's terrible. There's a scene where one of the turtles is like running past a cab in New York City, and the passenger in the cab's like, "What was that?" And the cabbie's like, "Looked like some giant turtle wearing a coat." You were going to LaGuardia, right? Like, just like it's New York, whatever.
Yeah, anything goes. And if he's going to LaGuardia, he's going to see a lot more weird shit. So,
yeah, I've been to New York a couple times, and it is a strange place. I could never live there, but it's a neat place to go. It's very much like every culture on Earth crammed into one island.
Yeah, and it's just like this. Maybe that it does make sense to have a movie like this set in New York because there's just so much stuff going on all the time. So it's easy to blend in these crazy alien scenes, chase scenes, people getting blown up and stuff, and kind of be like, oh, but it's New York, so it's fine.
Yeah, you could blast an alien gun into a truck in the middle of a crowded street, and people would just kind of be like, that was weird.
Let's take a picture. Like, yeah.
The original script included an entire subplot with warring alien races that the bugs were trying to play against each other. There was the Archilians, who we see in the movie, the little guys inside the human suits. And then there was they were called the Beltians, and they were another race who were like, the bugs were trying to destroy both of them. It was so complex and unnecessary, made the film too busy. So they cut that out. They managed to redub certain lines and change some CGI stuff. So they just completely cut that out and trimmed it down to just the bugs and the Archilians, which was really smart.
Yeah.
Can't be too busy.
Because there was already a lot going on with everything else, all the action. So
yeah, exactly. This is, it's Jay learning how to be a man in black. That's really what this is about. Everything else is kind of secondary. Right. So when you've got this, giant alien war in the background, it's just like, what am I supposed to be paying attention to? Yeah. The novelization of the film kept it, though. So if you ever want to know the details of that, you can read it, apparently.
Really cool.
Tommy Lee Jones was cast as Agent K, the veteran agent, which is just perfect casting.
Yeah, great job.
Yeah, I believe
he the movie, I think, honestly.
Yeah, he's fantastic. I love just, the opening when he's, INS Division 6, just lying to them. They're like, what Division 6? He's like, what, you never heard of this? he bullshits for a living. It's great.
But you would never know.
Exactly. I mean, yeah, the Men in Black could totally exist. We could have met them. How would we know? We got neuralized.
Right. And then he'll take your memory, so it really doesn't matter.
Relative film newcomer Will Smith was cast as Agent J, the rookie. Prior to this, Smith had back-to-back box office success with Bad Boys and Independence Day. But I'd say it was arguably Men in Black that kind of propelled him to box office superstardom. Everyone was like, look out for this guy. And then Men in Black happened, and they were like, oh, okay, he's here to stay.
Yeah. Agree.
Yeah. I miss when we were allowed to like Will Smith.
Yeah. I mean, when I was watching this, I was like, at least he didn't slap anybody. Some people were safe.
Oh, jeez.
I'll never live that down. I'm sorry.
Oh my God. No, that was a career destroying moment. I've never seen one happen in real time before. And it was like, wow.
Yeah.
My God. And then I watched Chris Rock's Netflix special where he kind of went out, talked about it. And that was just vicious.
Yeah. That was over a year, right, of holding that in. So
I mean, he held on to it. He, fought back in his own way. and came out on top.
Mhm.
But what a crazy thing. I he's Smith's going to keep trying. I mean, he's still a box office draw. I mean, King Richard was a success. I think Emancipation did well for Apple, but no one's gonna he's going to be connected to that forever.
Yeah.
Uh, but in the 90s, he was the Fresh Prince, and he did Bad Boys, Independence Day, Men in Black, Enemy of the State, and then he did Wild Wild West, and everyone was like, "Why did you do that?" He chose that.
It's a little like most of his choices.
He's not. He's bad at making decisions.
Yeah.
I think he has an impulse problem. He chose Wild Wild West over The Matrix. They wanted him to play Neo in The Matrix, and he went, no, I want to be a cowboy.
Wow. Career destroying right there.
It could have been for anybody else. It could have been, but he was like, no. What came out immediately? It had to be Men in Black 2 or Ali, I think it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll do it.
That was his redemption, but I don't know about now. We'll see. Maybe it has to be a Men in Black, like what, 5? Because there one with like Tessa Thompson and stuff.
Yeah, that one. I still haven't seen that because I heard it was horrendous.
Yeah, I love Tessa, but I just not that.
It is. Yeah, I'm wondering. Like, I think him and Martin Lawrence are ramping up Bad Boys 4 as like that'll be the redemption movie.
What, they're gonna be in the rest home? Like what? What else can you do? They old, their knees hurt, they got joint pain. What are you doing? Too much.
Well, would it be any different with Men in Black 5, where they're just like he's the old vet now trying to find a replacement? Actually,
I mean that's true.
That's a pitch.
Yeah,
that could work.
I guess no originality anymore. But anyway,
there isn't. But I mean, at some point, you kind of just go with it. Otherwise, you can't enjoy anything anymore.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. Men in Black has an IMDb score of 7.3, Rotten Tomatoes score of 91%. Critics' consensus reads, thanks to a smart script, spectacular set pieces, and charismatic performances from its leads, Men in Black is an entirely satisfying summer blockbuster hit. And I agree with that. It's a fun movie. It's clearly a franchise starter. It's fun. It propelled Smith to superstardom, gave Tommy Lee Jones a whole new audience, and still holds up. It looks great. It's fun, smartly written. It's good. It's really good.
Yeah. And I think maybe because we were kind of talking about that earlier, how like 90s movies just hit differently. And I think a lot of it had to do with like not only really good stories and storylines and just like throughout the entirety of the film, but then choosing the best actors to actually fulfill those roles. Like it really brings the story to life. So it kind of solidifies like how good it is to watch it, how good it, like the flow of the story as well. And so I think this one really did a good job at that. And it's also kind of a standalone, you know what I mean? Like it could definitely be a spinoff, which it has been, but then also like the first movie, it's like, it could just be complete in and of itself. And that's kind of rare sometimes these days, like to be so good, it can be itself or be extended, so.
Yeah, I agree. At least in the 90s, there was room for originality. People were starting a lot of franchises, which meant, a lot of standalone cool movies that could be its own thing. And yeah, Men in Black definitely has that. None of the sequels really live up. 2 is kind of shit. 3 is pretty good, but it's not this.
Right.
Yeah. I like that. Like I look at movies like Speed and Con Air and Face Off, a lot of Nicolas Cage stuff. Just working, just holding up and being itself, but also being stuck in the 90s.
Yeah.
It's something I'd love to explore further at some point.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah.
Because there are a lot of things in this movie that reminded me of some other like 90s films, and we can talk about that later, but it's just I don't know, that was just a time. There's a time and a place, and it's great. It's fantastic.
Yeah, it was, there were so many people who were starting their careers and were willing to take a lot of chances in early days of their career. So really just taking what they could get, and you get crazy shit. Like Vincent D'Onofrio as an alien bug. Yes, absolutely. But like now, I don't know if he'd be willing to take that kind of a risk.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah. I guess maybe that's probably what lent to some of the passion in the roles too, because it just the emotion in it seemed different. Like they fully embodied these characters. So I think that made it more real for the audience. And then you kind of create that bond to a degree, whether you hate them, love them, kind of in between. Like you have some buy-in with the character as an audience member, and that changes the course of the film as you watch it too. So
You need your character who's rooted in realism, who is just this New York cop who's introduced to this insane world at the same time as you are. So Jay is our eyes in this in the world of the Men in Black, and that's you need that. You need an anchor. But I also love that at the core, this is a buddy cop movie. It's the same beats as a film like 48 Hours or Lethal Weapon. It's just got aliens, which it works. It's a cool like coat of paint on something that we've seen before.
Right.
The film was a huge success. It grossed $589 million on a budget of only $90 million, which in the 90s was really good. These days, if you don't gross $1 billion, you're a failure, which is insane. You can't judge success by every Marvel movie. You just can't do that.
Yeah.
Was nominated for 3 Oscars. It won one Oscar. It won Best Makeup. It was also up for Best Art Direction and Best Original Score. Mm-hmm. Score is very cool. It's Danny Elfman doing his bouncy shit, which always works for me. It spawned a multimedia franchise, including a cartoon spin-off, multiple video games, a resurgence of the comic book, and 3 sequels: Men in Black 2, Men in Black 3, and Men in Black International, which was so bad it tanked the franchise. So, yeah, hate when that happens. They were gonna do a spin-off movie with a crossover with the 21 Jump Street franchise.
Interesting.
Yeah, Channing Tatum and Jonah Hill were gonna join the Men in Black.
Okay, that would have been way too much. How would those worlds even collide? How would those worlds even collide? Well, I mean, crossover shouldn't happen.
They're good cops, so naturally they're approached by the Men in Black who are always looking for new blood, and they're like, "Hey, how would you like to join?" And they join, and there's some alien shenanigans, I guess. I think they would have, considering how meta and entertaining the Jump Street movies are, I think they would have found a very interesting approach to that I would have liked to see.
True. Yeah. I don't know. I worry that maybe it would be too silly, like kind of losing the point. I mean, because there was a level of like seriousness even in the Men in Black, though it was for kids, it was supposed to be entertaining.
Yeah.
Still like some serious notes. And I just feel like it would just be, if it's not done right, it would be too campy. And I don't know.
That's true, because we saw in Men in Black 2 how, throwing more camp into this can kind of tank this thing.
Yeah.
Men in Black 3 kind of put the seriousness back in a little bit more, and it was a better movie. So yeah, I can see that. You need a balance. If it's too much in either direction, it's not going to work.
Yeah. Depends on who's doing it, but
that's true. Give it to Barry. I mean, he clearly knows what he's doing with this franchise.
Yeah.
So with that, let's look into the movie and give this film some awards.
Okay.
We have the Quentin Tarantino Award for the best line or quote of the movie. We have the Thomas Newman Award for the best music moment of the movie. We have the Philip Seymour Hoffman Award for the best performance of the movie. And we have the John Carpenter Award for the best scene of the movie. So why don't you start us out with what you went with the best line? What do you think is the best quote of this movie?
Okay. I'm honest. It got me. It got my attention. I remember it to this day. It's when Jay was like, "I got a little midget cricket." He got his minigun. That's like the best. That's the best. That is just like top of the line. That's top of the line comedy right there. That's like classic Will Smith, like goofy 90s kind of Fresh Prince Will Smith. Honestly, classic Black lingo. We make up anything. So like we'll make up any word to describe anything, no matter how crazy it sounds. So like that was definitely I think that summarized this whole movie for me. It's got like you get all this stuff and I get this. Like that stuck with me. I don't know.
It's a great line. It's a great moment. I love when he's walking out and he's like, "I feel like I'm going to break this damn thing."
Yeah. And it ends up breaking him most of the time he was using it.
Yeah, so. It's this crazy powerful like laser gun that Kay is terrified of. I love that.
Yep.
Yeah, good pick. That's a good scene. That's a good line. I went with something a bit more ethereal. Something that's always stuck with me from this movie. I love the way Kay kind of brings this up. It's when Kay's trying to convince James Edwards to take the plunge and join the MIB. And he reveals to him that aliens are real. And Edwards is like, so why the big secret? People are smart. They can handle it. And Kay says, a person is smart. People are dumb, panicky, dangerous animals, and you know it. 1,500 years ago, everybody knew the Earth was the center of the universe. 500 years ago, everybody knew the Earth was flat. And 15 minutes ago, you knew that humans were alone on this planet. Imagine what you'll know tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. Just perspective. What do we really know about our lives until we're faced with something that completely changes the definition of life itself? Mm-hmm. I love that. And the idea that, like, yeah, you can trust a human being to handle a secret, but people on the whole are going to freak the fuck out.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's something that, you got to think about with a revelation of a film like this. And I've always loved that speech.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a really good one. And I remember rewatching it and hearing him say that. And I was like, oh my God, we went through a whole pandemic. Right. And like that completely exposed all of these things he just said. So yeah. And then even honestly, to back it up, not to go too grim, but this was like what, 97? It was released then.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, this was like before 9/11, you know what I mean? So like, this was on the precipice of like one of the major, like complete milestones. Well, I don't want to say milestone, but like the point that really changed the course of American history and the way that we live and interact with each other and view different groups of people as well. So like, I mean, this major change that it's a weird foreshadowing that was going on there for me. So
yeah, this is one of those pre 9/11 New York movies where the Twin Towers are very visible in the skyline, and just makes you think about that now, which is unfortunate. But every New York movie prior to 9/11 that has the Twin Towers like visible, that's going to come up.
Yeah,
it's unfortunate, but that's going to come up.
Mm-hmm.
I was bummed that like Kay was so confident that like 500 years ago, we all thought the Earth was flat, that was going to go away. And regrettably, that has not gone away.
Yeah, it's really sad. Mm-mm.
You can't kill stupid. It's contagious.
It is. It is.
I was watching a while ago, I watched this documentary called Behind the Curve that talked about the culture of flat earthers. And I've never been more pissed off at society in my life because these people believe in this. Like, it's not a joke. They really do believe in this.
Yeah.
And my favorite part about it is they keep paying for experiments to prove their point, and they keep proving the Earth is round every single time.
Mm-hmm.
But they'll always be like, oh, we miscalculated the data. We'll get it right next time.
It's like, no, it's just wrong.
Yeah, just own it. Just own the fact that you don't know what you're doing.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah. Anytime that comes up, I'm like, oh, flat earthers. I don't hate a lot of people, but I do despise flat earthers with a passion.
Yeah. And what about the doomsday preppers? Because, and then there are different kinds of doomsday preppers. Like they were different subcategories, apparently. So there was some documentary I was watching, and the doomsday preppers in South Africa, like are the white South Africans.
Yeah.
And they are prepping for like race riots because they believe that the black people, the black South Africans are going to like start like a race war. So they have like literally an entire routine, and they practice the whole scene of like, what if one person of the family gets killed, taken, whatever along the way, then what's the backup plan? It's a whole thing. Like a lot of people sincerely believe this and practice it in their daily life. So I don't know what's worse. It's just, so I think that it just kind of comes back to that quote of like, people as a whole, we're really stupid. Like we would lose our shit.
We would. We absolutely would. Yeah. Doomsday prep depends on the doomsday, I guess. Like if you're prepping for a race war, you clearly have a lot of demons and are scared of shit you've done in the past. So yeah, okay. I'm just not going to talk to you. But if you're preparing for a zombie apocalypse, you're probably a pretty interesting person.
Yeah. Like fill me in on the secrets. Like
yeah. Where's the bunker? How do I get there?
Yeah.
Okay. The Thomas Newman Award, Best Music Moment. This has a great score, pretty decent soundtrack. Where'd you go with this?
Okay, so I chose two.
Okay.
I was really in love with the scene where Tommy Lee and Will Smith were in the tunnel upside down and the Elvis song was playing. Yeah. I don't know why. That was just, that was funny. And it was because it was just so like crazy. And Tommy, of course, in the whole movie is really chill. Will, of course, is like freaking out and they're upside down. You're like, sure, this is what it is. um, and then I think the closing, actually, the closing credits with the Will Smith spinoff of the Forget Me Not song. Mm. When I was hearing that, I was like, oh, we're bringing it back, but then also modern. And then his crazy cheesy raps, like it just messes it up. So you hear the song and you get excited, and then you hear him, you're like, why'd you have to do this? Very classic Will Smith. It would not be a 90s Will Smith thing without him messing up a good song, you know?
I wish he still did that. I wish he had a rap at the end of every movie he did. I want one at the end of King Richard. I want one at the end of The Pursuit of Happiness. Everything. Even if it matches the vibe of the movie in the slightest. I wish he still did that.
Yeah, well.
That's good. Yeah, that's Men in Black or Wild Wild West, which has the better end credits rap song?
Well, we will not be talking about Wild Wild West. That is just...
That's the right answer.
That is a thing we don't speak of. I honestly don't even remember it, so...
I'm not going to lie, I do have a bit of a soft spot for that movie.
All this hate you were given, and you secretly loving it. What's up?
When I was a kid, I had a very specific genre I loved, which was shitty film remakes of old TV shows. Wild Wild West, Lost in Space, My Favorite Martian, Charlie's Angels. I loved all those movies. I don't know why. I never saw the shows.
But you thought it was shitty?
Which one?
Charlie's Angels?
Okay, no, that one's good. That one's good. Okay. Charlie's Angels is a great movie.
But the one with Kristen Stewart, maybe not.
I didn't see that one. I don't need to see that one. I know who my angels are, and Kristen Stewart's not one of them.
Thank you. Okay, appreciate it.
But yeah, I'll watch that movie and not seethe. I can put it on as like background noise while I'm doing something. I too went with the Elvis in the Tunnel. The song's called Promised Land. I looked that up because I wanted to know, like, it's a great Elvis tune. And it is nice to see Kay kind of just, you know, you get the vibe that, like, for Jay, this is saving the world. For Kay, this is Tuesday.
Right.
And this is just him. This is going to work music, which is awesome. I love that. And him just kind of like, bam, 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 like, you know, getting into it upside down. And I love the immortal line, you know, you do know Elvis is dead, right? Like, no, Elvis is not dead. He just went home. Beautiful. It's a great moment. I nearly went with the opening credits score. I love how kind of weirdly menacing and kind of creepy the opening music is. It really kind of sets the tone for like, what kind of movie am I about to watch here?
Yeah. I could agree.
Yeah, there's a lot of good musical moments in this. Yeah, that was fun. Philip Seymour Hoffman Award, the best performance. Which performance wins this movie?
Okay. So obviously Tommy Lee, like I said earlier, I don't know, a few minutes ago, like he just carried the movie for me. I just think his demeanor, kind of some of his stoic moments, but also kind of like letting loose a little bit, especially in the middle kind of end of the film. But then getting a little bit more sentimental, wanting to be back with his girlfriend, all that stuff. He just was the rock of it for me. And even more like Will Smith was kind of like a secondary character to me. I don't know. That's just my opinion. And his humor and kind of aloofness and his hastiness kind of orbited around Tommy. So I really, really like that. But then second, I forget his name, but I call him the Thug Pug, the little pug at the bodega. He was shaking. I call him the Thug Pug. Yes. I love that. I love pugs. So the fact that I'm seeing like a little grumpy man kind of hood guy as a pug, it was great. I loved it.
Oh yeah, Frank is funny. I like him.
Yep.
That's funny. I do. This was I think this or Batman Forever was my introduction to Tommy Lee Jones. And I had a feeling, oh, that's a very serious gentleman. And I was right. But I like that he's, you know, I watched some outtakes from this film and from part 2, and it's weird. He and Will Smith really got along. Like,
in real life.
Yeah, the chemistry was real because they actually worked well together. Like during the outtakes, like Will Smith kept making him laugh and stuff. Like, it's real, which is hilarious because, like, compared to Batman Forever, Tommy Lee wanted to strangle Jim Carrey because he hated it so much. But it's nice to see a grumpy guy like Tommy Lee Jones kind of let loose and get to have some fun. Yeah. I love that the roles are switched in Men in Black 2, where Jay is now the seasoned vet and Kay is the new guy trying to figure out what the hell's going on. Mm-hmm. We get to see that for a bit. Mm-hmm. But to me, the standout of this film is Vincent D'Onofrio as Edgar the Bug. Mm. He is the way he's just walking around like he's a giant insect trying to figure out how a human being moves. It's perfect. Yeah. His creepy, like, gravelly voice, the way he's always like holding his head, it's so unnerving and so well done. I get why this film won Best Makeup at the Oscars.
Yeah.
It's great. I love his introduction of just, don't take that away. I'm eating that, damn it. Like, just such an asshole. I love his performance. It's creepy. It's unnerving. It's hilarious. And it's unforgettable. Like, he was the gold standard for villains in this franchise. No one else ever came close.
For sure.
And he's always been one of my favorite character actors anyway. And this is my favorite role of his. So shout out to Vincent D'Onofrio.
Yeah. We love when you pull your face back. We love that.
Yeah. So freaky. I love when he's in the car, like, just freaking out because rigor mortis is setting in. He's trying to move around again. And every time we see him, the body's a little more rotten.
Yeah. A little more stiff. Yeah. It's like a Frankenstein character. That's what it started reminding me of.
Yeah. I love that his wife was kind of just like, something was weird, but she wasn't entirely convinced until he pulled his face back. He's just like, maybe he's just drunk or something. Like, she has to deal with this guy's shit a lot. So I feel like this was just like, what now?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, cool. I love Rip Torn as Zed, the leader of this particular unit of Men in Black. He's got this, like, the cop, like the captain in a cop movie thing going on, where he's just, we got a runner down on 5th. Go take care of it. Just he's great. I've always loved Rip Torn. He's such a strange human being, but I liked him in movies like this.
Yeah.
All right, the John Carpenter Award, the best scene of the movie. What do you got there?
So I have 2. I love the opening scene. I think, like you were saying earlier about scores and how, like, the score really set the tone for the film. I think in addition to that, the opening scene, it is very, I don't know, for me, very nostalgic, very classic 90s opening kind of scene. You kind of get the story. You're like, okay, this seems like one way, but where are we going with this kind of thing? And then that's when all the crazy shit starts to unfold. Yeah. So just that whole segment of, like, them getting kind of these kind of, like, transient people out and be like, where are you going? And then the whole interaction of learning about the Men in Black, but not fully still knowing what they are yet. I love that. The opening scene was great. I think this is, like, one of my favorite opening scenes of a lot of 90 movies that I've seen, honestly, and most memorable for me. So I think that's where the nostalgic factor came in, because I'm like, I remember exactly where I was when I was doing this, when I was watching that. So definitely that one. And I think the UFO crash scene, like when that alien first landed and he hit the truck that he was talking about, he was like, the only thing that I have in my life is this truck. And then it got destroyed. And as the cow was just casually just move. I love that scene. That's, like, one of my favorite scenes in the film. For sure.
I love that this, like, Midwest farmer dude, like, a UFO crashes in his yard, destroys his truck. He walks up to it with a shotgun. Here's a very scary voice tell him to lower the gun. He's like, you can have my gun, or you pry it from my dead fingers. He's like, okay. And just pulls him into the fucking hole. It's terrifying.
Yeah.
Great.
But then also funny, because you're like, you deserved it.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, that's what happens.
Yeah.
I love the opening is fantastic. I love the whole, illegal alien double meaning here. That's done very well. I always get a chuckle when the coyote gets pulled over and the border cop's like, oh, hey, Nick the Dick, what a surprise. Just all the history implied in that sentence. I love it. Yeah. And yeah, just Mikey and the going after the lie that he gets the border cops to believe, you're lucky to be alive after a blast like that. It's all done so well, and it tells you everything you need to know at that moment about the Men in Black. And I think it's a great opener. Great opener. I remember one time when I was a kid, they showed this on Cartoon Network. Edited. It was edited for TV, so like they cut out a lot of it, and I'm like, they shouldn't be showing this on Cartoon Network.
No.
Yeah.
There are also a lot of shows on Cartoon Network that shouldn't have been. So.
Yeah.
That's a conversation for another time, but like.
Oh yeah!
Like, wow, that went deep in the memory well. I forgot about that.
Oh, I remember they showed that, and then they showed Dumb and Dumber once, which was
I do not remember that.
I remember thinking like
for the adult one, like because it was like kids in the morning.
It was not Adult Swim. It was like middle of the day Cartoon Network. I remember that because I remember thinking this is strange. This doesn't make sense.
Wow.
Yeah.
I said they'll get it. They'll get it. It's fine. They understand.
Yeah. I ultimately went with the final fight between J.K. and Edgar when Edgar, pulls off the skin and we get to see the bug and Jay fights the bug. I love that, especially when, he starts killing cockroaches and Edgar's like, oh my God, what are you doing? I love that. He's just like the look on Edgar's face of like complete shock and horror. It's so great. Kay gets fucking eaten alive. It's such a bonkers fight scene and really just like sticks the landing for this movie.
Yeah. Sure.
Very fun. Are there any other scenes that you considered that like were particularly memorable? Any moments?
Trying to think. Well, definitely, I don't know. The pug scene, I don't know, that really got to me. I love the pug thing. That's just that's just me. I think another good scene was probably near the end, kind of like when they were wrapping up and Agent J is now with new chick, Laurel Weaver. I don't know what she would go by her agent name.
I think in 2 it's mentioned that she's Agent L now.
Okay, yeah. I was gonna assume. So when they're kind of like taking over, but Agent J sees that like Agent K is like happy and content. He's kind of living that retired life, if you will, and is just being with people who he loves and kind of getting out of that monotonous like job kind of, space that he's been in of like, whatever, I'm just saving the world, killing aliens. Like he can finally put that to rest. I don't know. It's just, I think that's another nostalgic 90s wrap up element to films of this era. Yeah. It's like you start off with this crazy stuff and then by the end you're like, you know what? I'm throwing in the towel. So it's just, I don't know. And maybe that's kind of the setup for our lives at this point because I'm ready to throw in many towels. But
oh my God, I have been in give up mode for at least 10 years.
And you're right. So definitely some influence there. But I think it was just heartwarming. And I think, again, kind of in that weird duality of, yes, this is a wrap up for this movie and it can end solely on its own, but then also it could be the setup for the next one, which it kind of was. But,
I love that the best lie they could come up with for why Kay didn't remember the like last 30 years of his life was that he was in a coma.
Yeah.
That was it. That's the best they could do. Feel like that was Jay fucking with him.
Yeah. For sure.
One of my favorite scenes is the initial MIB test for new applicants. And we got like an Army Ranger, Marine, Navy SEAL, NYPD, and they're just in the room, and Jay is the only one who's figuring out what's going on here. All the other guys are just trying to, be the best of the best, which I love that. And the actual test was like, use the table.
Yeah. And they all failed. Like
except Jay, who just the like shriekiness of the table scratching the floor. I've always loved that because everyone's just looking at him like, failed. And then the shooting range thing where he shoots the little girl and totally defends it.
And then everyone else is like, all right, child killer. Like, what's going on over here?
And Zed's like,
that was a good one.
You see a little girl with quantum physics books walking through a bad neighborhood, you shoot her in the face.
Because you know shit's no good.
This movie's I love the alien birth scene where Jay has to help the squid lady give birth on the Jersey Turnpike, and Kay's just talking to the guy, and Jay's just being flipped around in the background.
And they're just casually looking over like, oh, he's doing great.
Don't worry, he does this all the time.
I think okay, so now that you mentioned that, I think the scene where Jay was like, oh, he's kind of cute, and then the thing throws up like this placenta nasty alien regurgitation stuff, that's pretty gross.
My favorite moment of that scene is at the end when Jay's sitting in the car covered in alien baby vomit, and Kay just looks over and says, any of that seem unusual to you?
Right. And his face is like, all of this.
He just looks so irritated.
Yeah, that's a good.
Yeah, this thing holds up. It's the best of the franchise by a mile, and it's a great watch. It's fun. I watch it with my family all the time. I'll throw it on for kicks. It's great. So let's see what some other people thought as we go into Letterboxd and take a look at what's in the box.
What's in the fucking box? Give me the gun.
So on this segment, we check out the Letterboxd, movie website Letterboxd, which is a social media film review website for film nerds, where we can kind of rank and review movies that we love or hate, give a 1 to 5 star rating, and just talk about movies with other people who love movies. It's a great site. Men in Black is rocking a 3.6 out of 5 stars, which is pretty good. And I have 3 reviews here that I hope will at least make you chuckle. This first one's from Felipe. Did Vincent D'Onofrio actually get possessed by an alien, or are human beings really capable of acting like that? 4 stars.
Okay.
He's so good. It's like if he actually was possessed by an alien bug, I believe it.
You're right.
This next one's from Casey Malone. I genuinely forgot that I was going to hear the Men in Black song until it came on during the credits, and I gasped. 4 stars.
Yeah. No, that one, yes. Like I said, it's a nostalgia throwback thing. So when I heard it, I was like, oh my God, I do remember that. It really took me back. So I resonate.
He did a song for part 2 that like nobody remembers.
Well,
yeah. And then Pitbull did the one for part 3, which again, nobody remembers.
Oh, I definitely don't remember that one. I didn't even know he did it. Wow.
This last one's from Comic Book Fan. This is still a great film. Still holds up. This is a great 90s sci-fi action comedy that's fast-paced, imaginative, not too long, had some brilliant creature designs from Rick Baker, and is funny with a great script delivered by the cast. Tommy Lee Jones and Will Smith have great chemistry, and I like the contrast between Tommy Lee Jones' moody older guy and Will Smith's youthful energy. It's directed with great creativity and energy by Barry Sonnenfeld and has a Steven Spielberg feel. The effects are still quite good. Some have dated, but it doesn't hurt the film. New York looks brilliant, and Vincent D'Onofrio makes a good, creepy villain. This is the best Men in Black film. Well said, Comic Book Fan. It really does just cover all the bases. This is a comfort food movie. If you like this kind of movie, this is where you're going to go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I concur.
Yeah, great stuff. That about covers it. Anything else you want to mention about Men in Black?
I feel like that Thug Pug doesn't get enough credit, to be honest. I feel like there should be more memes about it. I don't know. I feel like I resonate 100% with that. So
I love when Kay's interrogating him and some people walk past, are like, what the hell? And Jay's like, no, the dog owes my friend money. It's fine.
You're right. Classic Will Smith.
Yep. Fantastic. I wonder how much was improvised in this movie with Will Smith. Like how many lines were just like thrown off the cuff.
That would be good to investigate. Do they do that in like behind the scenes?
Yeah, you can. Yeah, so, trivia sites and stuff will tell you like certain lines are improvised. Like I know when he jumps off the bridge when he's chasing the guy at the beginning and he lands on the bus and he goes, "It's just raining black people in New York." That was improvised.
Wow. Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
I do like when he like runs into the guy and he's like, "This means like NYPD means I will knock your punk ass down." I was Yep. Yeah, it's a classic. Well, thanks for listening, everyone. This was a really fun show. If you like what we do, feel free to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Filmgazm Productions. If you want to suggest films for us to check out, you can email us at filmgazm@gmail.com, or, of course, send us a message through Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. Check out our Letterboxd accounts for daily reviews. You can search me at Connor95, and in my friends list, you can find the rest of the team. Check out our website, filmgazm.com, where I have a link to my Letterboxd if you want to read reviews. You can also find articles, trailers of upcoming films in every episode of our show. If you'd like to become a monthly donor to Filmgazm Productions, feel free to click on the link in the episode description. From there, click on Support This Podcast. You can choose to donate $1 a month if you like us, $5 a month if you love us, and $10 a month if you can't live without us. All donations go right back into the podcast, funds movie rentals, advertising, recording equipment. We appreciate any donations. Thanks very much. Thanks to the entire Filmgazm team for their constant friendship and contributions to the show. Austin Johnson, Caleb Leger, Josh Allred, Colton Jenkins, Cristian Aguilar, Isabel Gonzalez, Jeremy Johnson, Adam Johnson, and Mysia Pierce-Lewis. Thanks to Cooley Cow for our awesome theme music. Thanks to you for checking out our show and making it this far. Remember to take a look at the stars from time to time. Maybe we're not alone. Maybe we haven't been for a long time. Take it easy. Keep watching movies, and we'll see you next week. Thank you.